Okay, so hello und guten Abend, or rather hello and welcome to our Artist Talk today with Sharon Paz and Elianna Renner, moderated by Alison Hugill. My name is Sylvia Sadzinski, and since last October, I'm program manager at Alpha Nova and Galerie Futura. And this Artist Talk takes place as part of the duo exhibition Fragmented Narratives by Sharon Paz and Elianna Renner, which I co-curated with my colleague Katharina Koch. In Fragmented Narratives, Sharon Paz and Elianna Renner show two newly developed research-based works, and I hope that my internet is stable enough. And in their materials, both artists deal with history and historical narratives and their gaps and omissions. And these partially biographical approaches focus on Jewish history and anti-Semitism and racism, as well as the construction of history or histories and memory in general. Normally, today would have been the last day of the exhibition, and we would have loved to do this artist talk in our space. But due to the current regulations, we had to close down the exhibitions, unfortunately, a week earlier. But no worries, if you haven't had the chance to see the exhibition, we are happy that we could make some of the works available and accessible online on our webpage, galeriefutura.com, as well as today during this upcoming talk. And I now, my colleague Katharina might say something.
Yeah, welcome also from my side. My name is Katharina Koch, and I've been running Alpha Nova and Galerie Futura for about 9 years as artistic co-director. And like Sylvia also already mentioned, so since last year we do this together. And now I would like to briefly introduce Alison Hugill, who will moderate the artist talk today. So Alison is an editor and independent curator based in Berlin. She holds degrees in philosophy from King's College and contemporary art theory from Goldsmiths College. Her research focuses on contemporary art, architecture, participatory design, and aesthetic theories and of community. Alison is editor and contributor to Art Forum, Momus, Archinect, Artsy, AQ&B, Digital Icons, and Art Margins, and among many other publications. And Alison also has written a text about the exhibition Fragmented Narratives, which will soon appear in our small publication on the project. So we are really have many thanks for that to you, and also many thanks for leading the artist talk today. So
thank you.
Give you the floor now.
Thanks so much, Sylvia and Katharina, for the invitation to moderate this talk. I'm really happy to be here. And I want to welcome everyone again to our living rooms, which is weird, but that's the way things go these days. I'll let you guys know the plan for this evening, which will be to shortly show a video of a walkthrough of the exhibition, about 3 minutes long, which will hopefully help people to visualize the exhibition if you haven't seen it already, but maybe you have. However, it's not the same as being in person. It will be short, and then we will hear from Elianna and Sharon, who will introduce their works a little bit more, the works that are in the exhibition. And then we'll finally go into a conversation about themes and the process behind the works. And there'll be time for an audience Q&A, which I think we discovered with Zoom. You can actually submit your questions as we go, which is a fun fact. So I'll just introduce the artists really shortly now, and then they can themselves introduce their own works. But Sharon Paz is a visual artist born in Israel who studied in New York and now lives and works in Berlin. This trajectory has influenced her practice, as she often searches for the meaning of home in her work, while reflecting on social and political issues globally. Sharon's videos, performances, and installations, which are often site-specific, build non-linear narratives using fragmented visual language and seek to make connections between the past and the present while speculating on the future. Elianna Renner was born in Switzerland and now lives and works in Berlin as well. Her practice questions historical narratives and their omissions with the aim of exposing the power structures behind forgotten stories. Much of Elianna's work lies at the crossroads of biography and history and focuses on the stories of women in particular, those stories which do not appear in official historiography or only marginally. Using a variety of media such as film, photography, audio, text, sketches, and installation, her works remind us that not only personal memory processes are incomplete, but that cultural memory and official historiography also produces gaps. And I think that last point is something we'll be dwelling on a lot tonight, as it has resonance in both of the artists' works. But first, I think we will go ahead and play the walkthrough video, which is, as I said, about 3 minutes long, and then we'll hear from the artists themselves about their work. I think Elianna already voted for Sharon to speak first about the work, so but we can decide after the video. So.
Can you please introduce yourself? My name is Lee. I'm a photographer, a filmmaker, an artist. I work on different projects, sometimes commissioned and sometimes by my own initiation. I didn't get to know anyone, didn't want to get to know anyone, I had no time. I had this job to film this big event, so it was basically just work, work, work. And I didn't really want to even do it.
So I should start, maybe.
Yeah, if you'd like to go first, it would be great to hear a little bit more about your work, which we just saw at the end of the video there.
Yes. So my work is an interactive video, which you could choose. You always have two questions or two choices in between, and you actually, as a viewer, you are controlling the path that you are walking through the video. And what we saw, so we saw a little bit of the installation, and then we saw the back, in the back of the installation, there's a poster of the research. And this is somehow the map which would show all the links and all the inspiration pieces that led to the work. And I chose this interactive format to have this engagement with the audience. And when I started the work, I actually saw, I don't know if you know, Black Mirror. It's a British series, and I saw this chapter, and it was like, whoa, because it's very much this format of interaction, that you have this influence on the narrative. It's something that also connects in general to my work, which I work a lot with layers and multi-screen. So I like to not just tell a linear story. So it's more of walking through different elements and having like different scenes that influence you. And so this was one thing that influenced me to make this work. The other thing, I started to get obsessed with living in Berlin, having the Olympic Stadium. I actually went to Lollapalooza. And there was this kind of tension between this very young event with music and this very heavy structure. And this was one more event that kind of bring me. I started obsessing about the Olympic Stadium and what's behind, and researching. And then I came into to watching the film Olympia, and there's different things led to finding these two characters, which I focused on my research. One is Margaret Lambert. She's also Gretel Bergmann. She's a Jewish athlete that was supposed to participate in the Olympic Games in '36. And in the last minute, she got a letter that she's not good enough, but she was very good on any standard. She was before also having records for Germany. So, and when the laws against the Jews started, so she was banned to participate, and she went to England. So all this story is actually was online, and this was one of the characters. And on the other hand, there is Leni Riefenstahl, which is a filmmaker, and she worked with the Nazis and did very provocative person, which I also saw a lot of films, and there is a lot of documentation about her work. And I took all this material, which I found online, and reconstructed it into sort of interviews. Like I continued this format of an interview, and I made this reenactment. And I looked for an actress that will kind of fit these two positions, and I found Ruth Rosenfeld, which was amazing. Like she has also this very much like a commitment to this character, and she took over these two characters. I got this feedback that some people actually really don't realize that it's actually the same person for some time, and then you realize it is. And we created these two characters, and they have this different, like based on the two women and the interviews, based on all this research. I made this kind of narrative, which you have different paths to walk through, and there's different subjects also to the narrative. So there's if you follow one path, you not necessarily know what's gonna be in the other part. So it's very much there is like how the viewer watch it, how many times he watch it. And I also like this idea that you actually cannot get the whole thing as a whole. And yeah, there is I mentioned Ruth, and the other somehow I looked for a person who kind of I feel reflect also myself. This is the interview character, which is Lindy Agnes, and she's also an artist, and she asks questions. And in this path you choose, you sometimes as a viewer you ask questions, sometimes you actually choose the answer. What is the answer that the character, you kind of play in between that. And you have this all the time, you don't know, like some of the narratives are invented, some are actually real. So you have this tension between what is real and what is not. And yeah, this is maybe my beginning, my interacting, yeah, to this.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it is interesting that, you know, you mentioned that it is kind of a durational piece or something that requires a certain amount of commitment if you want to really understand all the layers, which is also why you have the supplementary poster that we saw a little bit there. But I understand. But we can talk about that more later. Yeah. So
yes, Pichipoi is a research. Actually, it's an installation that is a not finished research in itself. It's a little bit difficult to explain in English what I mean with that, because it's like the work itself is a research in 5 parts that shows outcomes that I found, but because of the way how I dealt with it, it's not really like an it's an outcome, but it's not like the finished research. So there is much more to research about it. Pichipoi is a word in Yiddish that I found in a book a few years ago, and it was described as an imaginary place in Drancy, in the, what is Außenlager in English? Sorry.
Transit camp? Or?
Yes, in France, in Drancy, next to Paris, and the book was written by Marceline Loridon-Yvons, and it's called And You Never Came Back. It's a letter that she's writing to her father, and about the note that he wrote to her when they already been in Auschwitz, where they have been deported from Drancy. So in the first part of the book, she's talking about Pichipoi as a word that people and kids, she was a kid in those times, would say when the trains would drive away from Drancy. And she explained the word as a Yiddish word that means imaginary place. And I was kind of confused because I never heard the word, and it sounded to me like very like a childish, fresh word that in the first moment I wouldn't give such a sad explanation or whatever. So I got curious to know where does it come from. And because in German you have words like pitch patch and things like that, so I really connected this more with like something childish or children language, let's say it like this. And then I started to research it over years. So I always came back and I had a lot of sketches what I want to do with the work or not. And when the idea came to work together with Sharon Paz on the exhibition, I decided to go back to Pichipoi and to do a serious research, to use archives, to use the internet, to use everything what I can. And of course I needed as well oral history, because we're talking about language, and I wanted to know what's left in the Yiddish language, if it's still used while people are talking, because I never heard about it, what doesn't mean anything. But I speak as well a bit Yiddish, and that's why I'm saying I never heard about it. And I started to ask around if people heard the word, and there were just a few. So I started to look for it in different kinds of forums. So the 5 parts, elements you saw in the beginning of the exhibition in the movie is like, one part is an airplane in a window that is actually a performance that happened on the 14th of August in Berlin, let's say over Berlin. It was a pilot who flew over Berlin with a banner that was written Pichipoi on it, and it was an open performance. And the idea was to make the word public, because the research is about that the word appears in Drancy as a word of hope. But for me, it was clear that the word has another background, and it probably is used hundreds of years already before. And it appeared there, and it had its biggest time like in Drancy. But there was a moment for Pichipoi after the war and before the war. So since for me the word became an immigrant who immigrated with all the immigrants, I was pretty sure that Pichipoi was as well already have been in Berlin. So maybe. So I thought it would be nice to have it flying over Berlin. And the material that you see in the movie, I don't know, yeah, Sylvia is going to show it, like is like the off material, at least on the end of the edit, like it's edited with the off material, not only the airplane that you can see. There is a lot of material, just the banner, the word that is like moving, is flying around, and there is a lot of wind. Sometimes you recognize the word, sometimes not. So it became like totally choreographical. And this was actually what was important for me to show, like when it's up the air, it's changing again. It's like with us, but it dances itself, like how the word is. And then there was a table with a screen inside that is showing like part of the research material I worked with from the internet, that you always see the hands showing like what I found, and as well discussions between people. And then there is a book. In the book, you have like fragments of the research, historical parts where the word appeared. You have linguistic parts that explains the word, where it comes from. And you have as well like word plays and songs. And songs, I'm saying like songs, like poems, because on the end, I found that there were poems about Pichipoi, and words were similar, like Pitiepoi, and that it became like children rhymes, and kids would sing them, but like always how it is with rhymes, that you never know like if the rhyme was made for children or it was just like a song, and then it became like a children rhyme or song, and then it developed like this. So this could be as well a reason why it appeared in Drancy, that the kids were singing the songs, and then the Pichipoi became very strong, because more or less it was always, the meaning was always an imaginary place. It could have been a shtetl, like a small town, or it could have been, yeah, that's what is mainly in the word. And then we have next to the book, a small box. In the box, there is a little movie where I wrote a phrase, Pichipoi is azoi groß wie a Floi. Pichipoi is big as a flea on myself, and it plays because I was writing with a mine of you say mine in English, of pens. Mine, it's in German. I have no clue. It's not a mine, right? It's like the metal thingy in the pen inside.
Yeah, I don't even know. I actually don't know what that's called. Like the ballpoint.
There is a word in German for that, and so I used it because it looked like poking on the skin, but it brings like a bit of intimacy, and this was to look into the box, and it's like a around 4 minutes movie, and you can see I'm always washing it away, and I write it again, and you see in the skin that there is it's remaining, like you see like short term not scars, but like the
there's a trace of the word on your arm. Yeah.
And this sentence was actually a phrase I found during the research in the beginning, and it drove me nuts because it was like something that was quoted as Tzigан and Schumacher, two very important famous comedians from the 60s in Israel, used it in their sketch, and I couldn't find where it came from, and I was really like annoying people with that, and I asked everyone I knew who is researching on them or on Yiddish in Yiddish history and literature that I knew if they know where I can find it, and no one could tell me. But then I thought it was interesting if I put it like opposite of the plane, that the plane is up with the word, and the sentence it's saying like Pichepoi is big as a flea means it can be huge, because it means it's the perspective you look for something, and it's the same if you look up to the airplane, either you see the word or you don't, or it flies away. And so for me it became like this dialogue between these two objects, while every one of these objects in the installation is made like they corresponding together through their research, as well through the way how they made in the room.
Great. I think that's a good place to start our conversation a little bit, because as you said, there's a lot of different layers to your work as well as Sharon's. In yours, there seems to be there's a biography of the word that's happening. You're kind of developing this biography, but also a choreography, and also this kind of embodied thing that's happening. It's happening on lots of levels. I was hoping that we could talk a little bit about the process behind both of your works and how you made them, because you're both using a lot of historical research. And, you know, as artists, you have maybe a privilege, or kind of, you can take liberties with historical narrative because you're not held to the same standards of objectivity as historians, let's say. But I would love to hear from you both, whoever wants to go first, about how you conducted your research for these pieces and how you chose to integrate it into the work. Anybody want to go first? Okay, I know that like in a separate interview, Elianna, you said that you primarily in your work with historical stories. You like to dig into research and to be challenged by not knowing where the journey will lead. So I think this is kind of interesting as an artistic process, a method of historical thinking. Yeah, how you kind of ended up with this work, you know, which has so many facets, not knowing necessarily where it would lead. Or maybe you did. You can tell us.
No, it was indeed like that, it was very difficult because I didn't know where to start and where to end. So you just start, and you start with Google, yeah. And then, and then you, always other ways of searching in the internet, but it became like there was a moment where I tried as well archives,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked several people to help that I knew that in the Yiddish world they have archives, they work in archives. What do they know about the word, to understand where does it come from, and if it's just French specific. This was very important for me to figure out, to locate where it comes from. So this was a tough one, because there is only one article written about it, and then I had really to get help to do the work, because for the historical part and the Yiddish parts, because I wasn't that fast in translating in Yiddish. This became problematic, because in German I can scan over a text, and and as well in English I can more or less, like, I have it's going fast, and suddenly I had like 5 languages around, because I was like, I had to read in German, in English, in French a lot, because there was a lot in Drancy. Then there was Spanish became as well important, because I found the word as well in South America. There was a woman who, I think in Mexico, wrote a comic about it. And there are like all this and Yiddish, of course. So there were all these moments of migration where it always everywhere traveled. And then I really had like moments where I found the word. There was in Israel, I got it from an archive, and then there was, like, for example, a newspaper, an old newspaper, a column from 1800 or something, that someone is talking about another person that I didn't understand who the person is, about Pichipoi. So I had to ask a friend of mine who is a lawyer, what does it mean? Because it sounds like a fight between land, and just to explain that actually it was just like a crazy way to look for a word. It's something else if you look for a biography or a place or something, is like a word that is used in maybe, like, how you say, umgangssprachlich. I don't want to use jargon, because Yiddish is not a jargon, but but like the way how you talk. So it meant this word was used a lot in rhymes and in just ways that you maybe don't write about it. But still, people projected as well a lot about the world. So it was kind of difficult.
And you literally projected that research in the exhibition, a lot of that. So I think in both of the works, there's this nice supplementary element where we get to go in behind the scenes a little bit and see a bit of the thinking without giving too much away. But especially when it's clear that this word has a long history, as you said, and you're only just starting to dig into it. We kind of get to join you on that journey, which I think is nice, with the vitrine piece. And it's also kind of, you're using things like Facebook posts, right? And Facebook comments and YouTube videos and Google search and so on. So it's this kind of, I had mentioned it before, I would call it maybe a more informal research, but I don't know what tools historians use, generally speaking. But that's my reading of it, is a kind of like, that's what I would do also if I was starting to search for this. And Sharon, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the research behind the work.
I also used Google. And for me, it was also interesting not to really have archives, so just to get material. Like I used it as a visual material. And actually, I'm interested also in a way, I took a film that already made, an interview that already made, and kind of re-edited it in my way and looked for the interesting part, that what I want to take. So it was really re-editing something that somebody already edited. So editing like other people's question. And with Lenny Riverton, it was really interesting. Like I kind of go over what she said and just took the things that interest me. And I took, for example, I focus on this connection that she totally, about this art and politics and things that she said, that her denial, or I kind of used it as a material, like what she said and what other people already did. So I kind of re-edited it, and I worked a lot also with drawings. So kind of visually also taking the things which are interested, or finding objects from the Olympic Games, which was that I felt kind of have some other things, and different element that also from the life of Margaret Lambert, and how she described herself and her career. And I tried to find also this somehow the liberty also to that we're not committed to editing. So it's also like putting these two women together in the same place. It's already a statement which I don't say I compare them, but there is things which is very gray in between them. So for example, like I could see how they are very career-driven women, and like their life story, they both are having this influence from the Olympic, from the Nazis, so their career were influenced. One had a big opportunity, and after she actually lost her career, and the other one is actually the opposite. She had a big career and then was destroyed by the Nazi regime, by fascism. And so this kind of storytelling of the past, actually, I took it as a material, and I think it's also like what I'm trying to do is also reflecting for what's going on today. And in the story, there is also this layer of what is true and what is not, what is invented, what is real, what is fiction. So this whole discussion is also interesting.
I think that you're both coming at this question of history from very different sides, because we have a word that is maybe little known or difficult to trace, and then you're dealing with two characters who are real. It's like both of them were over 100 when they died, which is just mad. And then they also kind of have, you know, tons of interviews with them over the course of their lives, where they have this intense awareness of themselves and of their own careers and within history. And you kind of come in and subvert that by changing what's out of context, maybe, or changing the narrative. So I find that between the two of you, you know, how you deal with history differently. But I think it might be interesting to hear from you guys also about, you were put together by the curators for this exhibition. And I do think there are a lot of resonances between your work. But I would like to hear from you maybe how you feel that your works relate to one another. If you want to say something about the other person's works, perhaps.
Yeah, I think I was thinking in the last days also about Elianna's work, just this word that you kind of, you take something very specific and you make it quite big, and it's something which also kind of mask reality. You know, the meaning of this word is like masking, like it's hiding, is actually hiding the truth, and somehow this kind of mechanism of hiding the truth, which actually also protect it. So I like this gray kind of zone of this word, and how you kind of attack it from different places in a way, and you create with one word so many events around it. And so I was thinking, this was in relation, just something which I was thinking, and I think in relation to my work, I would say it's also like this kind of journey you take inside of a fragmented narrative. Yeah, and I don't know what Elianna, maybe you can add.
I like the attacks, because what was weird is like that the word that sounds like a childish word means an imaginary place, and for me it was the place was interesting next to the Olympia Stadium, because it's a real existing concrete place. And the two works, they play very well together, because one place is existing and has its history, and the other part of the exhibition is fiddling around with the imaginary place from with totally different ways to show it, and it's not filling the place of the imaginary place. Because, for example, you have in different languages, to come back to Pichipoi, you have words for an imaginary place. Like, for example, in German, you have the word Schlaraffenland. It's like a part of a fairy tale, but it's already filled. There is a lot of food there. You know where you go. There is like a place that has pictures, and I didn't want it to fill the place with a picture to say this is the imaginary place and this is how I think it should look like. So I think it's already somewhere in the air, while you go to the next side and you see a place, and you're confronted with two biographies and their stories that you have to navigate in, and it's not clear, and you part of the history suddenly, and you have as well to think with it. So it's like you're constantly confronted with on one side with seeing what like how an imaginary place that doesn't exist is like coming up in objects, and they talking to you and they talk to itself, while you go to the other place and you suddenly are the important tool to the artwork, because without you it doesn't work. I mean, it works, but you have to choose the way, and you have to think as well. And this is what I like a lot about it, because it's not that easy, and you constantly as well. I liked a lot how you developed it and how you did it, because since you have twice the same actor, from the beginning when I saw the first pictures, I thought like it's really great, because this is already confusing your brain, because with history we think black and white, we have like all the stereotypes about history, and then if you see the same person with all these colors, like kind of a fictionary but still TV reality, and then you in between, and you just like the whole time, but oh wow, but Leni Riefenstahl is such an evil person, and then suddenly she has like some arrogancy or something, and you interact with this person still, because you decide where you go. And so I think I really liked it as a combination, and as well how you developed the movie and the whole interaction.
Yeah, I liked also the question of whether art should be political, coming as one of the questions that you have to choose, because I was just thinking, I mean, I was alone in the gallery when I saw the exhibition, but I was just thinking, what if you're there and like you just see someone, you know, answer in a certain way? It just doesn't necessarily mean that's what they believe, but it kind of like poses a lot of more questions.
There was actually in the opening, there was some interaction between people and say like, should we choose this? So there was some kind of, if you come with more than one person, then there is this dynamic, like what would you choose? Can I choose this? So that yeah. I also like that it's something I discovered that happens also with the work. Yeah. Yeah. And we have a question, I see.
Thank you for that. Maybe I'll ask a little one or two more questions. We don't have so much more time before we go into the audience Q&A, but I guess the heavy questions. We're in, we're in an interesting moment in history right now, in the middle of this US election, and both of your works deal, whether directly or indirectly, with the ways in which fascism took hold and silenced or erased certain narratives from history. And I would be interested to hear from you both what you think could be, what meaning these stories could have in our present moment and in our present political context, or if you see any connections.
I feel we are in a very confusing time, and this is also somehow connected to the work, this idea of you don't know what is the truth. And this is where we are, as like there is so much information coming, and with Corona, with all these theories, and it is a very thin line between freedom and security. I think it's like this, it really depends on the story, like how much freedom you have and you like to give up, or your security, which is like the fear that creates around you. So it's a very thin line. And I think with the work, I think it touches it. It touches this this kind of feeling that you don't know what, I got this kind of what is the truth, what is the real story of that. And there's different narratives also inside this work. There's also this art and politics. It also connects, there is the question of the name. I don't know, we didn't talk about it, but this is also another link to a different topic, which is Dare to Dream, which was actually the slogan of the Eurovision in 2019 when it happened in Tel Aviv. And there was also this kind of connection between politics and, this is not art, but this kind of big event, which happened. And I remember like this, I watched it, and there was this Madonna coming up with two dancers with the flag, the Israeli flag and the Palestinian. So it was like a moment which everything mixed. And so I'm interested, like for me it was also interested, this kind of crossing between politics and art and sport and the history. So coming back to today, it's all very confusing. Also.
Yeah, I think we are in a very difficult, dangerous time right now. I think like all this election, it's like very creepy. And because it's going to tell a lot about the future that is coming. And what I think was very creepy, I leave it on creepy because I could say as well interesting, is that I thought like in the last years always that in relation to history making, that the internet is a very interesting tool. It has these good and bad sides of suddenly everyone can make history because everyone leaves traces in the internet, and you can tell your own story, and this never was possible in the time before history. I mean, however you would claim that this is history, but on the end you can have like parts of biography, and there will be like something documented about the time, about the person, about an event. And now with the Corona, it was the first time that the internet became like a daily life tool that became very important to survive your day, because you couldn't spend that much time outside anymore. So people would just stay the most of the time in front of the internet, and this would be like their daily life. And with all these corona anti movements of the government, like all these right-wing weird conspiracy theory groups that suddenly come together from the left, from the right, who really work with their own truth, and everyone is adding something to the history and they're looking for the truth, but it's not based on any historical, scientific anything. It's just stories people make up because they're unhappy or they want to say something or not, and it becomes like very dangerous. And I think it's very creepy because it's like when the internet and human being comes together and goes then on the street with the knowledge of boredom, or because of I don't know what the pleasure was, or maybe the person wanted to be whatever. I mean, like having the truth and took from other videos and edited things together, and it's very
and
dangerous.
You mentioned at some point that you're also thinking about or working on a new project about, you know, they came up during lockdown about this word Lagerkoller, is that correct? And that's kind of what, in some ways, what you're talking about, which, I mean, you can say more about it, but from what you told me, it's a word that comes from concentration camps, and which is having a resurgence.
Yes,
now
it's an interesting word
media.
that it's called Lagerkoller in German. It's like, it means in English, what does it mean? I forgot what it's like a...
Like lockdown fatigue or stir crazy or something, more like cabin fever or something.
Yes, if you lock down and you feel like you want to get out. And this word came like was a lot during in you could find it a lot on Facebook, but as well in newspapers. And I was very surprised because since I grew up in Switzerland, I was not familiar to the word. I didn't know it. And then when I heard Lagerkoller, I was like, how that's weird that people feel having this lockdown kind of fatigue with the word lager and collar. And then I started first just like to ask people what it means, and then I looked a little bit about it, and I was like, wow, it came from concentration camps and jails. So I thought like that's intense. So I thought that I'm have now a new word to work about it, like less nice than a pitchy boy.
Yeah, not as cute, but okay. Yeah, Sharon, if you would like to say a bit about what you're working on now, you're welcome to as well before we go.
I started researching. The next thing will be about propaganda, and I started looking into the image of the secretary. So there's different secretaries also around Hitler and around Goebbels, and quite interesting how they have something similar to Leni Riefenstahl, which is like this kind of way of not seeing what's around them. So this is the beginning of my research, like looking at their biographies.
Okay, I see in the next exhibition coming together.
That's a nice chapter. And and I'm interested also to continue with like this kind of stretching the format. Like I like to take formats which are digital or like more used for entertainment, like 360 or something which is interactive that you could choose, and you could a little bit like taking this gaming approach or something, and put a different content into it. So this tension I find very that it could work.
Great. Shall we go into the audience Q&A then? Are we ready? Or do you guys want to?
No.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so we have a couple questions. The first is something that I was also interested in when I first saw the exhibition, because I didn't know the context before, in which it was made. But so the question is, how was it to cooperate for the two artists sharing the two rooms in the gallery? Did you exchange a lot about your works and your different approaches? if they are so different. I also had the same question when I saw it, because I had the sense that that I had kind of assumed that you had worked, you know, very site specifically on it, and that you must have been in dialogue all the time, but I'm not sure if that was the case. So why don't you answer us?
It was a dynamic. It changed for the time, but yeah, I think we had a lot of dialogue about the space and how to share it. Yeah.
We had like as well during the year of because we have a lot of talks how to create the exhibition, but as well like the panel and what are our thoughts. So there were a lot of talks, and I think since we knew like what is like what everyone is busy with, like it was inspiring. I mean, I thought it was very interesting what Sharon is doing. I changed during the year a few times things because few things I wanted to do didn't work, and I mean, like I said in the beginning, it was kind of a difficult research, and so it was as well a progress. This is like as well like what I did is a progress of the whole situation and the research. So what we did was actually talking what we're doing. But since I was not the whole time in Berlin, and we had as well to talk over Skype and whatever to see what is the schedule, and then we had Corona, and what do we do, and like there was a lot of constantly things happening next to the work.
Okay. There's two questions, one for each of you. So to Elianna, the question is, what are the next steps in your ongoing research in the Pichipoi project? Will you continue your research into that?
No, I'm not going to continue the research of Pichipoi. For me, it's like kind of done. I have now these 5 elements who are corresponding together, and I hope very much that some linguists from the Yiddish world are picking up the word, and they're going to do their own research that is a real research, because what I did now was like playfully giving inputs and idea where to find whatever, and it would be very nice if somebody else is taking the word and opens new chapters to the world.
Yeah, okay. And Sharon, so the question is, will you keep going on the path of interactive works now in your new project on the propaganda subject?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure in which way, if it would be so binary, because this was very you choose this or this, and it does create this feeling of a net, but still it was very dynamic. So I'm thinking more of more choices. So, but we see, I always like to try different things. So yeah, it's in progress. So.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear that it came from the Black Mirror episode. I know everybody should go watch that next.
Yeah.
So I don't see any further questions, but I welcome anybody to, I don't know if people don't know how you can go to the Q&A section, I believe at the bottom of the window, to add a question. If anybody would like to add another.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got one here. Wait. The plane flight looked really expensive, was it?
What?
Okay, it's not really.
I thought it's more expensive than it was.
What was the question? I didn't get it.
The flight, with the plane performance, looked really expensive, was it?
I mean, it was expensive, but it was not as expensive I thought it's gonna be. So I thought we're gonna, it will cost much more.
Okay.
Is that enough, or you want to have
Where do you see the okay. Now I see.
This is in the chat, yeah.
Okay.
a flight school?
Any other questions about the budget? But were you flying the plane, Elianna? That's the real question.
No.
Are you a pilot?
It was a pilot flying the plane. But in the beginning, I wanted to have a pilot who is flying, who does like skywriting and is flying Pichipoi in the air, like with loops. And the problem was that the last pilot I found in Germany was in Bavaria. And when I finally decided to ask him, because I was corresponding with him the whole time, to ask him to do it, then he said that he's going to close down his business. So
a question left. Nope. Okay, that's already been answered. Okay, well, if nobody else has further cues to be aid, then we will wrap it up, I guess. And I'd like to thank you both a lot for your insights into the exhibition. And unfortunately now it's closed, but as Sylvia mentioned, a lot of the material is on the website of Gallery Futura, so you can check it out there. And you can see a longer walkthrough of the exhibition. I think it's about 10 minutes long to get more of a sense of the works. So thank you very much, everybody. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Good.
You're back. Hi. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you all. I mean, and check regularly on the publication that will appear soon on the exhibition, and also like with an interview of Elianna and Sharon with Michael Biron, and a text by you, Alison, and some other thoughts and visual materials.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.